Hey everybody, this is Tracy here with another edition of A View from Tracy's Point, and we are here with an update to the Jacob Blake case. And so as expected, the prosecutors and attorneys have come to an agreement in the charges against Jacob Blake, which will save him from going to prison. And so you may have heard about Jacob Blake. He is the African-American man that was shot 7 times, I believe it was, in the back in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Well, when the story first broke, people were saying that he had pulled over because 2 women were fighting and he broke up the fight, and police then came and shot him. Well, we later learned that that was not the case. The home that Jacob Blake was at was that of his former girlfriend and the mother of his children. And he was there. He wasn't supposed to be there. She called 911 to tell the police, that there was a warrant out for his arrest. He had taken her keys, and that at some point she told the police that he was taking her children, and police witnessed him putting the children in the backseat of the car. Now, of course, because of the nature of these allegations, the story is not giving the name of who the woman is that, had levied these charges against Blake. But we do know that after the shooting, a woman named Lakeisha Booker came forward and stated that he was her fiance and that her kids were in the car. And where some of the confusion comes in for me is that we've seen multiple pictures of Blake with children. So at first there was a picture with 3 younger kids. And then there was another picture that came out that was posted on a GoFundMe page that had been set up for him. And he was standing there but in the presence of multiple children. There were, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kids in that particular picture. Not sure if all 5 of those kids are his. And then also in this story about the woman who pressed the charges against him, her situation with Blake has dated back to 2012, and one of the children in the picture with him looks like he could be about 8 years old, 7 or 8 years old. So I'm not sure if all these kids have the same mother or if this woman is the mother of the oldest child. But what we do know is that when police arrived and a scuffle began between Blake and the police officers, the woman on the scene was yelling, "He's got my keys, he's got my kid." And we know that 3 of his children were in the backseat of the car. And in the police reports, they state that he was putting a child into the backseat of the car. And so not sure if all these children are from the same woman or if there's multiple mothers, and then this oldest child of the woman that he repeatedly keeps allegedly assaulting, harassing, disturbing, whatever he's doing when he's showing up at her house and demanding her keys and bothering her or whatever is going on. And the police officer that actually shot him came out later and said that the reason he shot him was because he made a split-second decision, knowing that if they had let him go, he would have taken those kids, and he didn't want it to be on his back that, okay, he took those kids and something happened to the kids and now people are blaming him. So it was like a no-win situation for the police officer. So back to this case, you guys know that Jacob Blake was paralyzed. There seemed to be some conflicting stories as to whether he's permanently paralyzed or whether he will at some point regain movement in his lower body and will eventually walk again. So this story kind of died away from the media as more information was coming out about these pending charges against him, and he was actually arraigned in his hospital bed, and he entered a plea, I believe, of not guilty. So here is the latest update. The past few days, the prosecutors have been working, with the defense attorneys, trying to come to some kind of agreement, that would either make this case go away or have him plead guilty to a lesser charge. And so this is the news that came out yesterday. It says a SA charge against Jacob Blake, the black man shot in the back by police in August, touching off weeks of protests in Wisconsin, was dropped on Friday, according to court records. Appearing via Zoom, Blake pleaded guilty to 2 counts of disorderly conduct and domestic abuse and was sentenced to 2 years of probation, according to Kenosha County court records. In the deal, 1 count of criminal trespassing and 1 count of third-degree sexual assault and domestic abuse were dropped. The charges stem from an incident in May, which occurred before police confronted him on August 23rd. A bystander's cell phone video from the police incident appeared to show Blake trying to walk away from officers before he was shot at close range in the back. Rustin Skesky was identified as the police officer who shot Blake. The assault charge stemmed from an incident in May, which was believed to be the reason for his attempted arrest by Kenosha police officers in August. Blake previously pleaded not guilty to trespassing, assault, and disorderly conduct. The 3 charges are related to an incident at the home of Blake's girlfriend. His trial had been set to begin on Monday. Blake's lawyer and the prosecutor overseeing the case could not be immediately reached for comment late Friday afternoon. The police shooting of Blake touched off days of protests against police brutality and systemic racism. A little more backstory on, the back and forth that's been going on to try and get these charges dropped. So in a legal brief, defense attorney Patrick Cafferty argued the criminal case against Blake is extremely weak, saying the officer who originally investigated recommended that Blake be charged only with misdemeanor disorderly conduct. And so the state lacks any physical evidence regarding the allegation of assault. There are no witnesses to the allegations. The complainant refused to cooperate with law enforcement's attempts to collect physical evidence, and the complainant made a variety of misstatements to law enforcement regarding her claims of what allegedly occurred. So the May 3rd incident, in this incident on May 3rd, the woman called police stating that her former boyfriend broke into her home, took her vehicle, her keys, and a debit card, and then fled. She told police someone had used her debit card to make fraudulent ATM withdrawals. While speaking to officers, she said Blake also touched her sexually without her consent. During the initial meeting with police, the woman declined to go to the hospital for a sexual assault exam, saying she had been through enough and was humiliated and upset. The following day, the woman said her vehicle had been returned, and she later said she found her debit card in the vehicle. Police were unable to find video evidence of the card being used for ATM withdrawals, and in earlier stories, she had stated that there were 2 $500 withdrawals from her account. And so a police report about the investigation states the woman was not returning the investigators' calls. It is my belief that she does not wish to further participate in this case, as multiple voicemails have been left without getting a response, the report states. And you guys know it's common, for women, especially when you're in a relationship with somebody or been in a relationship, there are children involved. Black women, for some reason, carry this, and not just black women, let me stop saying that. Women in general always want to protect men who don't want to protect them, who are abusive to them. And so it is not uncommon that this woman, didn't want to see him go back to jail, because I think he had been to jail before. He had a criminal record. And so she didn't want to go through the hassle of trying to go to court and all of this stuff. She just wanted him to leave her alone. And so I guess she really did get justice in this police shooting, because now, she has had some peace for the past couple of weeks in terms of him bothering her. But I'm sure people have really been badgering her to drop these charges. And I have no doubt that there was probably money offered to her. Jacob Blake has probably promised to stay away from her. Like, I'm sure there's a lot behind the scenes that we won't be privy to, but hopefully this whole situation has been a lesson to him to leave this woman alone. So the article goes on to say that the officer writes on May 13th that he is forwarding the investigation packet to the district attorney for review for charging purposes and or the possible issuance of a criminal warrant for Jacob Blake regarding the following: 1 count of disorderly conduct. The report also states that the office sent out a department-wide email asking that all patrol officers be on the lookout for Jacob Blake, as a probable cause has been established to place him under arrest regarding this domestic violence incident. The next contact police had with Blake was the incident that led to his shooting. Prosecutors for the criminal case against Blake are asking in an other acts motion that it be allowed to present information to the jury about past conflicts between Blake and the woman. According to that document, there is a record of police being called for domestic disturbance calls between Blake and the woman 6 times since 2012. With calls made to police in Zion, Illinois, Mount Pleasant, and Kenosha. Blake was never convicted of a crime in any of those incidents. The woman has in the past reported Blake choked her, punched her, and damaged property. She has called police several times to report conflicts with Blake over vehicle keys. She called Kenosha police in March about a dispute with Blake over keys, but when police arrived, she said she had her keys and they could leave. She said she was not fearful for her safety. She called Kenosha police again in April after a verbal argument with Blake about keys. She told officers in that incident that nothing physical had occurred and she was not in fear of her safety. The state wants to introduce evidence of the past conflicts to show a pattern of behavior that shows motive or intent. The defense objects to testimony about those incidents, saying the testimony would be prejudicial. Judge Bruce Schroeder has asked that the attorneys notify the court by Wednesday whether they have reached a resolution in the case. As being reported now, they have come to an agreement and they have dropped the most serious charges against Blake, and he has pleaded guilty to the lesser charges and received 2 years of probation. So guys, what do you think about this? Do you think this was a good thing for him to plead to these lesser charges and get the 2 years probation? Do you believe that the woman in this case has, kind of like in a roundabout way, received justice because, now he can't come and bother her anymore, or now that he knows the seriousness of his behavior, that he will go about his business and leave her alone? And I'm sure that he is going to sue the Kenosha Police Department, and any money that he gets, maybe she's going to get a portion of that money. I would be interested in knowing if Jacob Blake has been paying child support, if he, was a good father to his kids. What is the backstory in their relationship? Because she's moved like to 3 different locations. Is she moving to get away from him? What is the hold that he has on her that she can't just leave him alone? Because trust and believe, if we are done and you come in my house, you going to jail, and you going to jail that night. I'm not putting up with this nonsense, because this has been going on between the two of them for 8 years. Well, I mean, she must like it, because if the first incident was in 2012 and it's now 2020, and they have 3 kids together, she is definitely, there's some codependency going on here. But anyway, don't get me talking about stupid relationships, because that's a whole nother video. Leave your comments below, rate the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And until the next time, I shall talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.